Senator Wyden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you and Senator Barrasso for holding this very important hearing. Terrific panel. As Chairman of the Finance Committee, I've been juggling a lot today, but I've been watching little parts of the discussion. It's been terrific. Here's my interest here. So many of the rules as it relates to rural America, and particularly recreation, have not kept up with the times. I mean, we know recreation now is a major economic engine for rural America, and I'm always struck by areas where basically the federal government just has missed the need to modernize systems. I see a number of my colleagues on the dais today who are co-sponsors of my legislation to permanently authorize the Craft Beverage Modernization and Tax Reform Act. Hugely important for breweries, for example, and restaurants in rural America. We've now gotten it permanent. And a number of those rural businesses that are dependent on recreation have come to me and said, you know, that law basically helped me survive the pandemic. So I'm so pleased that you're interested in working with us on these issues, and I know a number of my colleagues have been outlining important measures as well. So this morning, I want to talk about the other big initiative I have in this area, and that's with Blake Moore of Utah. It's a bipartisan bill, the Recreation Not Red Tape Act. And again, much like the laws involving breweries and rural restaurants, the rules haven't kept up with the times. What got me interested, because recreation is a hugely important business in my home state, was people were telling me that they'd get up on the phone in the middle of the night calling agencies and the like and holding and whatnot for what seemed like interminable amounts of time, and they just couldn't cut through the bureaucracy and red tape and get their permits and their passes and the like. And so that's what Congressman Moore and I are seeking to do, is to streamline the rules as it relates to permitting, emphasizing recreation, making sure that people have multiple uses of our public lands. That's a bedrock. I'm looking at all my Western colleagues on the committee. That's a bedrock principle of public lands, so we're protecting that, but we're really streamlining the system so we can wring more value out of opportunities to be outdoors, help our small businesses. And to me, this is much like the Craft Beverage Modernization Act, where nobody got up in the morning on these recreation permits and said, let's now be rotten to small rural businesses. I see my friend Senator Hickenlooper here, who comes from small business and understands this. We don't have anybody getting up in these agencies saying they want to be rotten to small businesses. What they do is they get up in the morning and they say, my God, I have this big rule book. And the thing was written kind of in the dark ages. As Senator Hickenlooper knows, because he's in the business, when we were working on the Craft Beverage Modernization Act, some of those rules almost went back to prohibition. Not quite that far, but they were from the dark ages. We're dealing with the same thing in terms of some of the recreation rules, and that's what Congressman Moore and I are trying to do in the recreation, not red tape idea. So, first question for you, Ms. Turner, if I might. As you know, we established these national recreation areas, which we think can really be a magnet for helping small recreation-oriented businesses. And I think you're pretty much in the ballpark with us on that. Can you just give us your thoughts?
Yes, thank you so much for the question, Senator Wyden, and for your amazing work on this and your team's work over the years on this bill. We agree with you completely that the recreation framework has not kept up with evolving visitor experience, demand, climate change technologies. I've heard stories of permits or passes actually being on framework that's more for the extractive industry than, just because there's not tools for our industry. And what the NRA portion of your bill creates is a real tool for agencies during their planning process to look for recreation quality landscapes. Right now, we're fitting a round peg in a square hole a lot of the times, where agencies need to go out and look for wild and scenic river qualities. They need to look for wilderness qualities. But what if they see someone hunting and fishing on an ATV, backpacking and biking? What is that area called? How are they going to manage for it in the future? And if we could have, national recreation area being looked for throughout the planning process and then being managed for as the highest use of the land. And that doesn't mean it's excluding other uses. That just means we're talking about recreation as a priority in this landscape. Businesses, will really be motivated by that. As Fred knows and can maybe speak to, if a business sees this is going to be an area that's managed for sustainable recreation for years, you're going to get those guides and outfitters. You're going to get the breweries that go along with that. You're actually going to get the technology and healthcare companies that want to live and work and play near these great recreation assets. So it's even more than the recreation economy. Sustainable, well-planned recreation assets can create, economic resurgence that goes well beyond our industry.
Let me just really quickly, because I'm already pressing on my time. Question for you, Mr. French, with respect to the Forest Service. What we worked very hard to do, working with the agencies and the like, is to make sure that we didn't affect other multiple uses in existing or future national recreation designations, require the agency to unilaterally go out and do a bunch of different stuff. I would just like to have on the record your assessment, because we worked very closely with you, to make sure that the Forest Service isn't going out under this bill to have to manage a bunch of areas that aren't already designated as recreation areas. We wanted to build on the existing system, strengthen the existing system. Could you just speak quickly to that?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And yes, it worked very closely with us, addressed our concerns, and the way that we read it right now, it would be very compatible, wouldn't create those issues.
Great. Big thanks, everybody. And I just want you to know, I think some of the work you're doing is just as important as it gets in the rural West, because this is not your grandfather's economy in the rural West. And recreation, huge economic engine, and just wonderful to have you, and appreciate the collaboration.
Thank you. Senator Cantwell.
Thank you. Following on my colleague, I couldn't agree